So we've talked a lot about the Beast games here on this YouTube channel and a lot of the controversy that Mr. Beast himself has faced in trying to start this new game show on Amazon Prime, which, well, he did start it, and there's a few episodes that have already been published. And we're going to go ahead and discuss what this means for creators on the platform, what this means for Mr. Beast, and kind of what we think of this whole new game show. So Grant and I just watched essentially the first 10 minutes of episode 1 of the Beast games. And let's just say it was pretty intense, right? So before they even start the first one, they say, before this competition even starts, we're giving away $1 million. There's 1,000 contestants standing there. Oh yeah, we're going to make $1 million. And all you got to do to make some money right now is eliminate yourself from the competition. Now, this is actually a pretty typical Mr. Beast move. He does this in his YouTube videos all the time. But like I said, the Beast Games is on Amazon Prime. This is a whole new thing. This is not a YouTube video. This is a game show. And in order to earn that money in this first episode, contestants had to eliminate themselves. And however many people eliminated themselves would be how many people split that $1 million. So around 50 people eliminated themselves, and every person got about $20,000 for doing that. And it was crazy because the very next thing he says is, all right, we have 950 people left. You guys are all in rows. I think there was 8 different rows, and your whole entire row will be eliminated right now, and you're going to walk away with $0 unless one person in your row sacrifices themselves. And so literally for no reason, one person in each row had to sacrifice themselves. And if somebody did that, then your row was safe and your row would move on. And the ultimate prize for the Beast Games is $5 million. So people stuck around. They were like, somebody do it. Somebody eliminate yourself, sacrifice yourself. And if your row didn't do it by the end of the timer, then your entire row was out if nobody sacrificed themselves. So super crazy premises. People were crying, people were cheering, people were fighting. Grant, what was your impression of how this whole game show started after I just explained it? And of course, you watched the first 10 minutes yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, it feels like Mr. Beast on steroids, right? We have a classic style Mr. Beast video. It feels like the Squid Games video, but with the Amazon budget. And it was really impressive. It's like triple distilled Mr. Beast. It was very entertaining, right? It also, it's it's a formula that clearly works. I respect what Mr. Beast is able to do with the formula that he himself has created. To me, it always feels like very melodramatic, but also it's $5 million. I think the sacrificing yourself part of the show was very interesting. That definitely adds to the drama, which I think is like what we wanted to focus on for this episode is like, is this going to be a game changer for YouTubers in general, specifically ones that have a big enough audience to where they might attract the attention of a big network like Amazon Prime or Netflix? Are we going to see YouTubers not moving to those platforms, but like having an audience on those platforms in addition to YouTube? And ultimately, that's going to depend on how well this performs relative to how much it costs to make. In my opinion, I think this is like Amazon is probably not going to get a huge return on their investment. That's my take, just with how expensive Mr. Beast has said his videos tend to make, or how expensive the videos tend to be. This is probably going to be the same thing. I do think, though, I'm sure people will sign up for Amazon for this show. They will not get an immediate return on their investment. So I'm not expecting this to be like a huge game changer for YouTubers necessarily. But I could be wrong. It really just comes down to how much money does Amazon actually make off of this. What do you think? Do you think Amazon's going to get a return on their investment here?
$5 million, paying a bunch of people. I don't know. I don't know about the return on investment. I mean, I do think it's kind of a smart move because, what are you trying to do? You're trying to grow Amazon Prime subscriptions, right? You want people to sign up, and that's like $10 a month. You bring on the Beast Games, and Mr. Beast has this huge audience, tens of thousands of people sign up just to watch it. There could be a return on investment, but it all depends on how much people watch the show, and how much they want a second season and a third season, because that's really what it's all about. I mean, it's like hope to break even on the first season, but the second season, third season, if you can keep this thing rolling and it keeps going for multiple seasons, then yeah, it's great. But I think the question you asked about, like, what does this mean for creators? What does the Beast Games mean for creators? And here's kind of how I'm looking at it. As a YouTuber, as a content creator, you're trying to monetize beyond just ads. You want to start a business, right? You want to launch a product. And that's typically what YouTubers have done in the past, right? They launch some merch or a product, Crunch Labs. There's all these different things that these creators do to monetize. This is like a new kind of uncharted territory that might probably be only for the biggest creators, right? But at some point, you're creating content. How can you just add a budget to what you're already doing and just make way better content, but put it on one of these gated platforms like Netflix or Amazon or, I don't know, Hulu, right? Where you're doing the exact same thing on YouTube, like Mr. Beast is doing, but just another level. So, you can think of somebody like, not everybody's doing challenge videos and stuff like that on YouTube. Sometimes it's just commentary talking like this. Well, imagine if you had your own talk show, okay, so now, there's, I don't know, I'm trying to think of somebody like, Colin and Samir, right? Colin and Samir. The reason this topic came up today was because Mr. Beast has recently gone on Colin and Samir. I recommend you check out the episode. It was about 4 or 5 days ago where they discussed the Beast Games and kind of went a little bit more in depth about it. But yeah, Colin and Samir, they could get a talk show, on Netflix where they bring on different guests and they have a budget, a better studio, a better everything. I think this could be a new way for content creators to create gated content where they're getting paid the big bucks by one of these platforms. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think with the scale that Mr. Beast is operating at, like, I think as a general rule, that's going to be a really risky investment for streaming services. I think because he's Mr. Beast, it's a worthwhile risk for them to take. I think with other YouTubers, I can see this happening on a smaller scale and kind of bringing their audience to a new platform. But for me, the big question is like, if it feels like they're just sort of gatekeeping normal content that this YouTuber normally posts on YouTube, but it's now behind a paywall, I think that's going to be really unpopular. So it feels like, to me, the real difference between success and failure here is going to be, can other YouTubers make their content different enough on Netflix, let's say, if they get to deal with Netflix, than their stuff on YouTube. So obviously you're going to have a higher budget, higher production value. And I think that's a lot easier said than done. Like with Mr. Beast, it's sort of obvious like how to do this, right? You just kind of do what he does, but make it bigger, make the money bigger, make the sets more elaborate and interesting with, 50 people falling through trapdoors. Like, it just kind of feels like, just make it bigger, right? But like, how would you do that in Emma Chamberlain or any vlogging YouTuber? It's like, that's not necessarily an easy question to answer, because I think a lot of what makes YouTube interesting is the rawness. But Mr. Beast has always been like very highly produced. The editing is very brain rot friendly, ADHD friendly. Like it's good editing. It's very good. It just like, you never want to click away, and you just kind of do that more, and it works well. But like, if someone's rawness is the reason that they're interesting, like I feel like that's not going to do well on Netflix. So in my opinion, this can be a game changer. It just needs to be done very carefully with the right YouTubers in the right situation, and the content needs to feel different enough. And will the executives of these companies understand that? I'm not sure. I'm really not.
Yeah, and I think the point you made about being different is important, because why not just watch it on YouTube? Yeah, the Beast Games is a whole nother level, right? It's more money, it's more contestants, it's more crazy. But to me, I don't know if people are going to be taking out their credit cards and swiping it just for that, when they could watch essentially the same thing that he produces on YouTube.
It's like the YouTube Red thing. Remember YouTube Red? You had these YouTubers who would have these highly produced shows that YouTube was keeping behind the YouTube Premium paywall, or it was called YouTube Red at the time, and it didn't like it flopped. Ultimately, they stopped doing it. So like that didn't work, and that was content that was living on YouTube already. And yes, it was still behind a paywall, but like it already didn't work. So will it work with this new platform? It's possible people were like annoyed at the idea of like, I don't pay for YouTube, like I'm not going to start paying for YouTube. But people are used to paying for Amazon and Netflix, things like that. So maybe this will be received better. Maybe that was enough of an issue for people, just on principle, that they didn't want to pay for YouTube, that this might actually make the difference here. Or like, I'm sure they're promoting Beast games a lot on Amazon Prime, so maybe this will expose Mr. Beast to an entirely new audience, who hasn't heard of Mr. Beast. I'm sure some people haven't heard of him. Maybe they watched a show, now they like him. So it feels like kind of a repeat of the YouTube Red situation, that his show was immaculately produced. I mean, it's clearly very well made. I was not surprised that I was impressed by that, but ultimately it comes down to the dollar bills. And I don't know if it's going to work. I really don't.
Here's what I would like to see. Like, I would like to see Emma Chamberlain come out with a show on Netflix or Amazon Prime that is like different than the content she produces. Like, give us a reality show, like give us a reality show of what these YouTubers' lives are really like. And I mean, reality shows are huge, and people do enjoy seeing what it's like for Kim Kardashian and her family on the Kim Kardashian show. Like, I think any of these YouTubers that are really big enough, there's enough interest to put together a reality show. And I've always said, like, one of my business ideas has always been like reality show in a box. Like, with technology and everything nowadays, like, I feel like you could create a reality show for some celebrity or YouTuber for like 250 grand. Like, you charge them 250 grand. It's a 10 to 12 episode series, and you get 3 videographers with some decent DSLRs, some decent lenses, and some one producer that's doing kind of story arcs and stuff throughout the whole thing. I think you could put together a pretty good reality show for anybody, for celebrities, for YouTubers. But I think that kind of content would do good. I think people would enjoy seeing a reality show for Casey Neistat, or I don't know, even Mr. Beast, So I don't know.
I agree. So I feel like that can work, especially. So I actually think Emma Chamberlain is the perfect example here. I listen to her podcast a lot, and she is really burned out with creating YouTube videos. I mean, she did it for years, on a really fast pace. And, I'm kind of wondering, like, with what you said, could she start making vlogs again, but it's more of a reality show? But there's a team to do the editing and to do most of the filming and things like that. Like, could you make a reality show with a YouTuber where the spirit of like the original content isn't lost? I think it is theoretically possible. I think it's very hard to do. I could see lots of executives making lots of really bad decisions, and sort of getting in the way of the vision of the show. But, as long as a YouTuber, I think, is established enough and is able to, fight for what they believe in enough, I do think that is possible. But like, with Emma Chamberlain, I think the reason her stuff is so interesting is because I would say she never really tried to like keep your attention necessarily. It's very vibey, whereas Mr. Beast is like, there's something new happening every 5 seconds. Emma Chamberlain, like, the shots are very slow. You kind of like, you're almost like, you feel like you're there with her throughout the day. You're not watching a show. You're just kind of like there in her life. So like, and that's a very simple style of video relative to like, a Kardashian style show. So I think like if the reality show wasn't over dramatized and if they were able to make it similar enough, I think it could work. I guess I'm just like so skeptical of a corporation being able to produce like a show with that much authenticity. But I would like to see it. I think it would be cool to like if YouTubers, if they get burned out and they just like, man, I just can't edit these videos anymore. But you still want to see them on film in that kind of medium. This could be a good option. It just, as long as it doesn't seem too sellouty, then it could work.
Yep, totally. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, Mr. Beast kind of the first one. Let's see if anybody else starts trying to, do the same strategy. It was very interesting on the Colin and Samir show, hearing him talk about this a lot and all of his business ventures. And, we've covered it on this podcast a lot about all the controversies, with, people he's hired. And it seemed like there was like a 6-month period where he was just getting hit, bam, 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 with all these different allegations and all this kind of stuff. One of them was the Beast Games, kind of like mistreatment of the contestants, not giving them food in time and having them in kind of maybe small confined spaces. I don't remember all the details there, but that was one thing he faced, and other things he's faced, are things with like Feastables, which is his consumer goods kind of part of his business. He has this like consumer goods branch where Feastables, where he sells these chocolate bars, as well as Lunchly, which are like Lunchables that he's partnered with KSI and Logan Paul. But it was interesting hearing him talk about that too, because, I really do think he gets a bad rap for all the controversy stuff. I think he's made his mistakes or whatever, but listening to him on that Colin and Samir show, like he's talking about how like Feastables, they are really trying really hard to end child labor in Africa, right? In Africa, I guess most of your chocolate bars that are sourcing cocoa, the cocoa beans, like any kind of chocolate from Hershey's and stuff, like they are using child labor in Africa, and Feastables is not. Like they are even going so far as to saying, okay, farmer, how much do you want? Oh, we want $1,000 for this lot of cocoa beans. And they would go, no. You want $2,000 for it, because if you're only charging us $1,000, that means you're using child labor. We're going to pay you $2,000, and we're not going to allow you to use child labor. You're going to be able to pay people more, and these children that you are hiring are going to go to school now and get an education. And they're like, well, that's all great, except for the fact there's no school in this village. These children can't go to school. There's no school. So Mr. Beast is going even one step further and working with other nonprofits, or even doing it himself and building schools up in these villages and really ending like child labor. It like actually,
that's amazing. Wow.
Not just taking $1 million like most rich people do and putting it towards an organization. Like they're solving this issue. And it was really cool to hear in the interview all that kind of stuff, because you don't know. We're just over here criticizing him, and he's really trying, I think, to do the right things. And yeah, it was just interesting to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the philanthropy arm of Mr. Beast, I think, has always been really interesting to me, and it did feel like they were always doing their best. Of course, with all of his controversies, that I think there was a lot of reasons to criticize him, and he made a lot of mistakes. Especially, being in his early 20s and having all of this success. I do feel like in many ways he had the attitude of a no-nonsense business person. And a lot of people fell through the cracks sometimes. And that really sucks. And I like to think that when somebody is like on the verge of getting canceled, or like people are trying to cancel them, I think I've seen a lot of celebrities who have gone through that say something along the lines of like, oh, all of this can just go away, and that's a really terrifying thought, like whether or not it's even deserved. It just like, it could just go away if enough people hate you. And like, that kind of makes things click and makes you look at what you have in a different way, in like a new level of gratefulness of like, maybe I shouldn't just charge forward. I should really like think about what I'm doing. And I do feel like maybe that matured him in a way where now, like, he always had the philanthropy arm, and I think that was always like important to him. But now it's kind of reaching a new level of like, oh, this is actually like how people perceive me, and like the deeds I do in the world are legitimately important. And I think part of growing up is sort of realizing that, right? I believe Mr. Beast is like trying to do good here, despite his mistakes, and I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. So go Jimmy, fucking do it, man, please.
Yeah. He's definitely doing it. I mean, he's got a lot going on. He also has software with viewstats.com. But I will say that, and maybe this is due to the controversy, unfortunately, the reviews for the Beast games have not been good so far. You know, we're like 6 or 7 episodes in. From what I've seen, I haven't seen every episode and stuff. I did see recently one contestant. Essentially, there was this game where there was 10 contestants. They all were inside these little mini homes. Okay, imagine like a cul-de-sac of these little mini homes. There was $1 million. Each one had to go out and say, "I want to take X amount of dollars from this $1 million." 10 people. So you would think they would all say, "I'll take 100,000," and they'll take the money. They go back into their little house. No one knows who took what. Next person comes out. "Oh no, there's only 900,000 left. I'm going to take my 100,000." They go in. Next person comes out. "Okay, there's 800,000." And this guy who was like literally third, I think, took 650,000. I think it was down to about 800,000 or even less, and left $27,000 left for the other 7 contestants or 6 contestants. And basically this guy became a villain, right? He took the $650,000. He was all over social media. You see him in that little mini house with the dollar bills spread all over the bed, just crying, whimpering. "I can't believe I did that. I'm in debt." And that was his excuse. It's like, "I'm in $550,000 of debt. This is a fresh beginning. I'm doing it for my family." And I'm like, what kind of debt is that? A credit card debt? It's a lot of debt, but hold on one second. Here's my criticism. What kind of debt is that?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
Credit card debt, that's okay. I understand. If you're in $550,000 of credit card debt, you're kind of screwed. But if it's like a home loan, like, shoot, man, I'm in $550,000 worth of debt just from purchasing a home. These home loans are crazy these days. But anyways, that was kind of his excuse, and it just makes me wonder, like, what kind of debt are we talking about here?
Yeah, or like, how did you accrue that debt? Like, what were you buying, bro?
Are you just going to blow the 650 grand right now? I mean, if you're in 550, dude, you're about to blow it all again. But anyways, I thought it was interesting and made for good TV. And, the girl he screwed over, a lot of people with the girl he screwed over, he used to say, they've gone through a lot together. "Oh, you're like a daughter to me." And yeah, he screwed her over. So that girl took like $5,000 or something. But yeah, anyways, reviews. It's not getting very good reviews. Do you think that has to do with the controversy, or do you think that has to do with maybe older generation on Amazon Prime watching this stuff and giving it bad reviews? I mean, it's Rotten Tomatoes, bad reviews. The Guardian, bad reviews. IMDb, bad reviews. These are all the biggest ones in the space. Why do you think that is?
All in all, I think it's getting bad reviews because it's just more Mr. Beast. There was a lot of build up to it. The controversy is not helping him. The kind of expanding the audience to older people who are probably watching probably isn't helping. All the above, really. And I think it was worth a shot. Maybe he'll do something new with season 2. I want it to be successful. I would like him to be successful with this. So hopefully he kind of like takes some notes and changes things for season 2.
Yeah, and knowing him, he will improve upon it. I mean, he's great at, creating good videos and storytelling and all that kind of stuff. But how good is he at designing a game show? That's a little bit different. A game show, it's got some elements maybe that he's missing. But all in all, I'm the same. I'm in your boat. I want this to succeed. I want to see a season 2. I want people to give it a chance. And I'm curious to see how the whole season ends. I bet things turn around with the ratings and stuff as he's got some stuff up his sleeve. And by the very last episode, it's going to be just a must watch episode, making all kinds of newsworthy things happen. So, yep, that's it. I'm rooting for him. You're rooting for him. Mr. Beast, best of luck to you. And I hope you guys liked today's episode. If you did, then leave us a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also subscribe. If you're listening on audio platforms, you can click that little follow button. Follow us there as well. And remember, This is all brought to you by vidchops.com, which allows you to add an expert video editor to your team. Just a few clicks, vidchops.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next episode.
Later.